The first thing people notice about St. Matthew Island is the wind. It never stops. It doesn't howl, not usually. It presses. Constant, dull pressure, like a hand on your chest that never quite lets go. St. Matthew sits alone in the Bering Sea, roughly halfway between mainland Alaska and Siberia. No permanent population. No trees. Just low volcanic hills, frozen tundra, and black rock beaches that smell faintly of salt and iron. In the winter of 1987, the only people living there were 13 men assigned to a decommissioned Air Force long-range radar site. Site Able, 5, kept nominally operational to watch for anomalous air traffic. That was the phrase used in our paperwork. I was one of those 13 men. My name doesn't matter. I'll tell you that up front. Not because I'm hiding, because it won't help you understand anything that comes next. What matters is routine, because routine is how you survive places like that. Every morning at 0600, the diesel generators were checked. At 0700, the radar sweep logs were reviewed. At 0800, weather readings were recorded manually because the automated system froze half the year. Coffee at 0830. Radio check-ins on the hour. The radar itself was old even then. A rotating dish housed inside a white geodesic dome, its panels stained yellow from decades of salt and cold. The screen glowed green, sweeping in slow circles, painting the sky as a thin line that meant nothing until it didn't. Most days, nothing happened. That's important. Most days were empty. The kind of empty that becomes physical. The kind that makes you listen to your own breathing. The unease didn't arrive with a bang. It seeped in through small things. Things that didn't trigger reports. Things you didn't bother mentioning on the radio because you couldn't articulate why they bothered you. On January 12th, during the 0400 shift, I noticed the radar sweep hesitating. Not stopping. Hesitating. A fractional delay. Less than a second. Like a stutter. I logged it as equipment lag. Cold weather artifact. That same morning, the wind stopped for 6 minutes. Every man on the station noticed. We didn't say anything. We just stood there, listening to a silence so complete it made our ears ring. Then the wind came back, harder than before, and routine resumed. That should have been the first sign, but it never is. The lights came a week later. At first, they looked like fishing boats, low on the horizon, moving slowly, amber in color. Except there were no fishing routes that far north in January, and these lights didn't move like boats. They rose, straight up, then vanished. The radar didn't register them. That part was worse than seeing something. Because if you see something and the radar confirms it, you can classify it. Aircraft, weather balloon, atmospheric distortion, unknown, but real in a way that fits the rules. But when you see something and the radar stays empty, your brain starts inventing explanations you don't want. That night, the radio picked up interference. Not static. Voices. Low amplitude, buried under the carrier's signal. Too distorted to understand, but rhythmic. Almost paced. We tried triangulating the source. It didn't behave like any transmission we knew. The signal strength didn't degrade with distance. It simply appeared, then cut off. 2 days later, one of the men, Harris, maintenance, reported losing an hour. He was on generator duty. Went out at 2100. Came back inside thinking 20 minutes had passed. The clock read 22:17. No explanation. No memory gap he could describe. Just a sense that something had paused and resumed without him. We laughed it off. We all did. You laugh because the alternative is unacceptable. On January 19th, seabirds started washing up on the eastern shore. No wounds. No signs of impact. Eyes clouded. Internal organs ruptured, according to the one medic among us who bothered to look. As if they'd been subjected to sudden, extreme pressure. That night, the radar logged its first true anomaly. An object appeared at 0322 hours. No transponder. No altitude data. No velocity curve that made sense. It didn't move across the screen. It expanded. A faint bloom, like someone slowly breathing onto glass. Then it collapsed into nothing. Total duration, 14 seconds. Command response, radar artifact. Continue observation. The phrase appeared 3 times in 3 separate reports. By the end of the week, no one slept properly. You could feel it in the halls. A tightening. Conversations died mid-sentence. People stood longer at windows they'd never cared about before, staring into a dark that felt increasingly occupied. Something had arrived. We just didn't know where yet. On January 27th, the power failed. Not completely. Not cleanly. Lights dimmed to a dull, orange glow. Equipment hummed at the wrong pitch. The radar dish stopped rotating but continued emitting a low-frequency vibration you could feel through the concrete. Outside, the wind reversed direction. That shouldn't happen. Wind doesn't just turn around. Multiple men reported nausea, pressure behind the eyes, a metallic taste in the mouth. The medic checked us for carbon monoxide leaks. Found nothing. At 0114 hours, 3 objects appeared simultaneously, visually. Not on radar. They hovered above the island, just below cloud cover. Darker than the sky, but not black. More like absences. Like sections of reality had been erased and replaced with something flatter. No lights this time. No sound. The silence was total. Even the ocean seemed to hold its breath. Then came the vibration. Low. Subsonic. It rattled teeth without making noise. One man collapsed, bleeding from the nose and ears. Another started crying uncontrollably, repeating the same sentence over and over. It knows we're looking at it. I don't know why that sentence stuck with me. The objects didn't move. They didn't need to. After exactly 9 minutes, they were gone. The power returned seconds later. Systems rebooted as if nothing had happened. Logs showed no outage. Satellite phone calls to command went unanswered. That morning, 2 men were missing. Their bunks were empty. Their cold weather gear untouched. No footprints leading away from the station. No radio distress calls. Nothing. Search teams found no bodies. Just impressions in the snow. Circular. Too smooth. As if the ground had been pressed upward from below. Command arrived 12 hours later. Not rescue. Containment. They told us there had been no missing men. That our logs were incorrect. That stress and isolation were known to cause shared delusions. They confiscated hard drives. Removed radar tapes. Issued new ones with pre-filled data. We were told to forget. But forgetting isn't something you can order. It happened to me on February 2nd. I was alone in the radar room, graveyard shift, green glow washing over concrete walls. The dish was rotating again, smooth, obedient. Then it stopped. No alert. No alarm. Just stopped. The air grew cold. Not temperature cold. Depth cold. Like standing over deep water. The metallic taste returned, stronger this time. The lights dimmed. The hum deepened until it felt like the room itself was breathing. The radar screen filled with noise. Then cleared. Something was directly above the station. Not shown as a blip. Shown as absence. A perfect circular void where data should have been. The pressure increased. My vision tunneled. I couldn't move. Couldn't scream. The door behind me vibrated gently, like something testing it. Then the sound. Not loud. Close. A layered resonance. As if multiple frequencies were overlapping, slightly out of sync. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't mechanical. It was intent rendered audible. The ceiling lights shattered. I remember thinking, not deciding, not reasoning, that if I looked up, something would look back. I don't remember looking up. I remember waking up outside, barely clothed, snow falling upward around me. The sky wrong, too deep, too sharp. One of the objects hovered overhead, close enough that my skin burned with cold. I couldn't see its surface. My eyes slid off it, like trying to focus on the edge of a dream. Then I was inside again, on the floor, radar operational. Clock reading 0417. For hours missing. I never filed the report. Someone else did it for me. The station closed 3 weeks later. Official reason, structural instability. 6 of the original 13 men were gone by then. Listed as reassigned. Transferred. Medically discharged. None of us ever heard from them again. I was debriefed in Anchorage. Then Washington. Then nowhere I can name. Same questions, repeated by different faces. Did you see a craft? Did it have lights? Did it communicate? I answered honestly. That seemed to disappoint them. Medical scans showed unexplained scarring on my inner ear, elevated heavy metals in my blood that no one would explain. I was advised not to discuss St. Matthew Island with anyone, ever. The radar site was dismantled. Satellite images now show nothing but snow and rock. Official records indicate it never existed. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel the pressure, the sense of being observed from directly overhead. I can't sleep under open sky. Neither can the others who survived, those who didn't disappear. In 2019, a commercial fishing vessel reported losing 3 hours of time near St. Matthew Island. In 2022, a weather satellite recorded a circular data void in the same airspace. Both incidents were dismissed. The ocean hasn't returned the missing men. No wreckage, no bodies, no explanation. I don't think what we encountered was visiting. I think it was passing through. And I think the only reason we noticed at all is because it slowed down. If you're hearing this, you should know. Radar doesn't detect objects. It detects disruption. And sometimes, when the sky goes quiet, when the wind stops, when the instruments hesitate, that doesn't mean nothing is there. It means something is close enough that reality itself doesn't know how to describe it. And that pause, that stutter, that's the moment it notices you back.